Welcome to the LDN Radio Show, brought to you by the LDN Research Trust. I'm your host, Linda Elsiegood. I have an exciting lineup of guest speakers who are LDN experts in their field. We will be discussing low dose naltrexone and its many uses in autoimmune diseases, cancers, etc. Thank you for joining us. This show is sponsored by PharmaCare Compounding Pharmacy. They are located outside of Akron, Ohio, and specialise in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, LDN, erectile dysfunction, and much more. For further information, go to www.pharmacarerx.com or call 330-633-0714. Today my guest is Pharmacist Dr Ryan Powell from the PharmaCare Compounding Pharmacy in Ohio, which is PCAB accredited. Thank you for joining me today, Ryan.
Thank you for having me.
So could we, before we start talking about your pharmacy and what you compound there, could you tell us your history, your story, what led you to be the person you are today? Thank you.
I have actually been in pharmacy for about 10 years now, and I started off just working at regular community pharmacies for some chains, like in some grocery stores and large box retailers, and, I quickly grew disenfranchised when it came to that type of medicine. A lot of people who would come in, it was very protocol, like someone came in with high blood pressure, so the doctor was giving them this drug, and then if that didn't work, this drug, and then if that didn't work, this drug. So, I felt very limited in my capacity to help patients, just due to the fact that a lot of the patients also, they weren't really interested in necessarily improving their health. They were relying on these medications to help them with their health. So I always felt like there was more that I could do as a pharmacist to help the people who wanted to be helped. And I always had an interest in like nutraceuticals, using food as medicine, and maybe, supplements and things off the beaten path. So, I started looking around at other practices in the area that were doing this type of medicine, and I came across some guys who owned PharmaCare Compounding Pharmacy, and they took me into their wing. And as things went, I learned about bioidentical hormones. We learned a lot about, we do a lot of adrenal fatigue, a lot of thyroid replacement therapy, using high-dose supplements and high-quality supplements, and then also about, they were using low-dose naltrexone to help patients with autoimmune disorders. I think it started off with, they were helping a lot of patients with MS, help them feel better. But then, so as I learned about it, learned that it could be used for any autoimmune disorder. So we have a lot of patients with MS who use it, a lot of patients with rheumatoid arthritis use it, Crohn's, and then also endometriosis, which is kind of great for us because we do a lot of bioidentical hormones for women and things like that. So, that's kind of right up our alley as far as other than people having their uterus removed when they don't really need it. LDN can be a wonder drug for a lot of these patients. So that's kind of where we're at now, a very, as you might say, functional type of practice, that we're highly involved in our patients' lives. A lot of the doctors in the area refer to us because of our knowledge. Unfortunately, a lot of the docs may not be familiar with LDN or familiar with the supplements or even what we're capable of doing. So it gives us great pride when the doctor trusts us enough to call us and say, hey, I have a patient, their problem is X, Y, and Z. What do you think we should do about it? And we kind of help create the treatment plan. And we work with the patients directly and get a lot of feedback from them. So it's really an enjoyable type of practice, and that's kind of where we're at today.
Well, it's good that the patient gets to know you and you get to know them, and there's a trust and a bond, I should think, that forms within that relationship, that they trust you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's kind of like the one of the best parts about this job is the patients are fully aware that we are directly involved in patient care, and a lot of times the patient might be the one kind of pushing us to help them. They might just come in off the street, they may find us on our website, or word of mouth is really big for us. We helped one person who was having these issues, but regular medicine wasn't helping, and then they send a friend over, and we start working with them, we call their doctor, and, we're the one helping push the treatment plan. So it's good feedback, and, if we weren't good at what we do, patients would stop coming. So our biggest advertising is word of mouth. So that gives you a good feeling, when your friends, when they're referred by their friends who you already helped, it's just a great feeling.
Just to tell you a little bit about me, I've got multiple sclerosis and I've been using LDN now for over 13 years with very good results. I also used to have endometriosis, and I'll say used to have. And I was talking to Dr. Phil Boyle, who has a infertility clinic in Dublin in Ireland. And he was asking me my history, and I was telling him about endometriosis and how awful it was. I mean, it was very painful, very messy. I won't go into gory details, but it was awful. It limited my life remarkably. And I said to him, as I grew older, the endometriosis went. And he said, "What do you mean it went?" I said, "Well, I think I'd been on LDN a few years or however long I'd been on it, but it had stopped completely. It had gone, and this had been a problem. I'd had problems for many, many years. I mean, with my menstrual cycle, I had problems when I was 11. I used to faint and vomit. I had my first D&C when I was 17, and I've probably had about 20 since then. And laparoscopies, I've had polyps removed, fibroids removed, lots of different things. And it just stopped. So he said, "So that was after you started the LDN, was it?" So I said, "Yes." He said, "And did you ever think it may have been the LDN?" And because I wasn't taking it for that, I was taking it, for MS, it hadn't occurred to me at all. I just thought it was because I'd, in inverted commas, grown out of it, that I was heading towards the menopause and that was going to be the reason why. But obviously it'd been the LDN. So I think that's amazing that you actually are aware of that and can help women, because it is a devastating thing to have. So well done. Hats off to you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of people out there a lot of docs are just very willing to, have surgery and things like that. And then, the uterus is, important with getting blood flow and stuff like that to the ovaries. So all your sex hormones could be affected if you had the uterus removed. So if you don't have to have it removed, and you could do something about it with LDN. And that's what's amazing about LDN to me, is that, the side effects are very limited. It's a very safe medication. You're using a low dose, obviously, so your side effects are lower. Like, I wish more mainstream doctors knew about it, because if you have any autoimmune disorder, you should at least give it a try. Like, why not try it? Because, it's documented. YouTube videos, yourself, people with MS can feel better overnight, some people. There's YouTube journals on it. So I'm just amazed that, if I had an autoimmune disorder, like, everybody should be on it, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So especially now with, we're learning more and more about cancer every day, and that, sugar feeds cancer, and sugar causes inflammation in the body. So inflammation is what's causing a lot of our health issues. So just the way LDN works, by blocking those receptors and allowing your natural endorphins to work more properly, your own body is drastically reducing the inflammation in itself. So I think the limits on LDN it's limitless, essentially. So the more we can get the word out about LDN, it's a cost-effective option. These cancer drugs will bankrupt people, and we're always talking about, here in America, the cost of healthcare. Mm-hmm. This is something that has extremely low cost. So why aren't we using it more? That's the question.
And interestingly, when you were talking initially about blood pressure, that, if this pill doesn't work, there's another one, and then another one, and another one. And the number of people that say to me, well, isn't there a pill I can take that will make me better? Is LDN that pill? Well, if you don't get your body functioning correctly, no one pill is going to make you better, is it? Like you were saying about sugar. And if you're going to eat junk food, your body is going to be junk inside. You've got to have a healthy approach, a healthy lifestyle to start with, haven't you?
Yeah.
It's very important.
I mean, absolutely. And when you have a practice like we have, like the compounding or the functional medicine, like everything's interrelated. And, we want those patients who are seeking out health. They're trying to eat healthier. Food is medicine. Mm-hmm. So you are what you eat. So the more vegetables you eat, the less red meat you eat, the more fish that you eat. I think Time Magazine, I just saw it on Twitter the other day, that really, as human beings, we don't know yet what our lifespan can be. Like the potential of living well beyond 100 is, like they already say the first person to live 150 years or whatever it is has already been born. So, there's not a lot of constraints on how long we can live as human beings. The only thing that's going to constrain that is what we're putting into our body, especially now with all the toxins we encounter, all the preservatives. And I don't know that necessarily modern medicine is helping us live longer with, all the controversies you hear about it. The medications or the vaccines or whatnot. I don't know what the answer is, but, a lot of it might simply come back to the food that we consume. Mm-hmm. If you know what a blue zone is, there's X number of blue zones in the world, and those are areas where people live well beyond the average lifespan. And, they all have different attributes, but the one common thing that most of them have is they don't eat a lot of meat, they don't consume a lot of alcohol. So just there alone, they're not putting free radicals into their system, they're keeping inflammation down. And I doubt those type of areas, they take much medication either. Mm. It's their food that they consume. It's their healthy lifestyles that keep them young and healthy. It's not some magic pill, Mm-hmm.
So with the LDN, how do you compound it? What forms do you supply LDN to your patients?
Mainly it's capsules. Most people here like the convenience of capsules. So capsules are the most common way that we use it. The dosage range from probably 1 milligram to 4.5 milligrams is probably the most popular dose that we have. We do always have to educate patients and doctors that the low dose naltrexone is the appealing part of it. So you don't want to keep increasing the dose, which is kind of like second nature to us here, is like, if 5 milligrams is good, 10 milligrams is better, mm-hmm. 20 milligrams is even better than that. So people need to always understand that it's in the low dose. That's where the magic is. If the dose gets too high, it blocks that receptors too much, so you don't have the upregulation, so it doesn't work like it should. So probably like 3 to 4.5 milligrams is the main doses that we use. And also we do it in a cream to help patients who have psoriasis. So that seems to work pretty well as a cream. But for it, they could still take it orally and help improve their psoriasis as well. But we have had good uses with using LDN as a cream. And then a secondary compound we might use for that is like a vitamin B, because vitamin B is good for psoriasis. So they're not injecting these heavy dose like immunomodulators into their system to help with their psoriasis. They're using LDN, which, isn't very toxic at all.
Mm-hmm. And do you do a liquid or a sublingual as well, or is it just mainly the capsules?
Yeah, just mainly the capsules. There's no reason why we wouldn't do a suspension or possibly a troche. If we had a person who had a difficulty swallowing, definitely we would go those routes. But historically, we've just done the capsules because, most of our patients, they seem to dislike the convenience of doing a capsule. But if we had a child or, someone who had an issue swallowing, I think doing a suspension would would definitely work.
Mm-hmm. And what filler do you use in your capsules?
The filler we use is just simply microcrystalline cellulose. So, that is what veggie capsules are made out of. So it's very innocuous. It doesn't hinder the absorption of any medications. So that's the filler that we like to use in most of our capsules, not just LDN, but hormones and other medications as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we always try and use the least amount of fillers as possible, because regular drugs a lot of times have 10, 15 different types of fillers in there as preservatives and things like that. Just more things that can hinder the absorption, or patients can have an allergic reaction to, or can cause gut inflammation. So if we're giving them a pill that's causing any gut inflammation, it's going to hinder the absorption, cause inflammation, possibly make them feel worse. So we have found over the years that just microcrystalline cellulose seems to be pretty innocuous and, seems to help the medication absorb well.
Mm-hmm. Have any of your patients reported to you any negative side effects?
Oh, not many, to be honest. Whenever someone picks up LDN for the first time, we always counsel them that, your body gets used to it, and this is the case with any medication. As your body gets used to it, you're taking it at bedtime, so it could possibly affect your sleep pattern, maybe give you some more vivid dreams at first. But historically, we find after 1 to 2 weeks, that side effect goes away. And that's really it. I mean, after the 2-week mark, they're usually sleeping fine and don't really experience any side effects at all. In our experience anyway.
Mm-hmm. And with your close relationship with your patients, have you found a trend, a pattern of how long LDN roughly takes for them to notice an improvement?
I would say relatively quick. People always want to fix quick, a quick fix and things like that. So people are always looking for it to work relatively quick. We always tell them to give it at least 3 months to fully take effect. But I would say patients feel better, especially energy-wise. I think they feel better relatively quick. I think they start to notice it after like 2 weeks on average. Like we said earlier, patients can feel better almost immediately. But I'd say between 2 weeks to a month for it to start where they notice a difference. And it may start as, not necessarily disease remission or anything, but it could start off just as energy. I know a lot of people comment about their increased energy on the LDN. And it builds up for a lot of people. They're not Superman the next day after they take a pill, and it slowly builds and builds. And then they get accustomed to the way they feel on it. Like I will say, for example, one person had stopped their LDN, right? They said, I didn't really know how much it was helping me until I stopped it. When I stopped taking it, I quickly remembered how badly I felt before the LDN. And, that was just a sign to them that, wow, this stuff really does work. So as it was building up in their system, they were taking it every day over 1 to 2, 3 months. It was just a gradual progression. So they didn't feel better like immediately, like jump levels, let's say. But when they stopped it, all that progress was lost. And they were like, this stuff does work, because I did notice how much worse I felt when I stopped it.
Mm. Well, that's the thing. And I'm as guilty as everybody else. As I started to go downhill, I noticed every single step. Today I'm not able to do this. Today I've got this side effect. Today the pain is a little bit worse. But when it's the other way round, every day you take a step towards better health, you just take it for granted. Mm-hmm. You don't notice, okay, the pain in your legs have gone, but you don't think to yourself, oh, the pain in my legs have gone. It's not there, so you don't recognise it. And I can remember talking to a friend, and I continued improving for about 18 months. I was very sick before I started LDN. And I said to her, oh, LDN, it was really good. And I would say after 6 months, I stayed the same. And we were talking, and she said to me, but you couldn't do that last time we spoke, and this is different. And it was like, yes, in actual fact, I did continue to improve. But as you were saying, it slowly builds up. It's gradual that different things suddenly improve over time. So it is worth going into it with your eyes open that it's, you're not going to wake up tomorrow and you're going to feel absolutely fine.
And once again, like we said, like it is a magic pill, but it's, there's also other things you got to do, right? So, people do the LDN, and if they're like, I want to get healthy, well, then stop eating so much red meat. Stop eating the preserved foods, the fast foods, the things like that, because you're putting inflammation in your body. If you want, your endometriosis to get better, let's cut down on all the other inflammation that our body's fighting. So, take care of your gut. Make sure you're eating, yogurt, vegetables, probiotics, fish oil, CoQ10 to help feed your mitochondria so your cells can produce energy. Because, when you have an autoimmune disorder, your body's always trying to fight that. So, your cortisol level can be down. So you definitely have adrenal fatigue. So if your cortisol level is down, you don't have your own natural steroids help fighting off this inflammation. So you want to get that back up. So it's a very energy-consuming process when your body's constantly trying to fight this uphill battle. So you want to make sure you're putting food and nourishment and gasoline into your body so you can help fight off and get these toxins out of your system.
I know every patient varies with their what condition their body's in, what disease or condition they're trying to treat. So everyone is individual. But if there are people out there listening and they're rather confused about supplements and things and they don't want to go and visit a doctor, are there any supplements that you would recommend as being a baseline that would be good for anybody, regardless of what condition they had?
Absolutely. So, a lot of people take multivitamins, and that's fine, but that wouldn't even necessarily be on my baseline type of supplement. Like if we had to say a handful of supplements that we feel like everybody should be on, period, it would be like a good fish oil, right? So good fish oil, you're getting the good fatty acids, which are, fighting inflammation. They're good for your gut. They're good for your arteries, good for triglycerides, just good for your cardiovascular system in general. So that's one. The second thing we'd like to see everybody on is a good probiotic. So, our gut has been linked to so many different disease states nowadays. Just recently, they're starting to link Alzheimer's disease to the fibers in your gut. Obesity can be contributed to, having dysbiosis, which means not enough good bacteria, too much bad bacteria. Your neurotransmitters start in your gut, so your norepinephrine, your dopamine, your serotonin all start in your gut. And same with your immune system. The gut is like the first step in the immune system. If you put something in your body, your gut's going to deal with it first. So a good probiotic can help keep all that inflammation down in your gut. So, your mood's better. You're less depressed, less anxiety. You might find you're not getting as sick as frequently in the winter. And then thirdly, the last thing that I would say everyone should be on is like a vitamin D. Once again, vitamin D deficiency is linked to a whole madrid of disease states. For instance, we do a lot of compounding for females, menopausal women. There's some studies out there that show that having a vitamin D level, not just in range, right? The vitamin D level, when we draw it on the blood work, is very large, right? It might be 20 to 80. Something in there is like the range, right? Well, you want your vitamin D level to be 50 to 80. You want it to be up there in that 90th percentile of that range. Because when you get up there, there's some studies that show that it can be preventative against certain types of cancers, ovarian, and other types of female-related cancers like breast cancer. So, and there's not a lot of, it is a fat-soluble vitamin, so you want to be careful with it. You can do too much of it. But in reasonable doses, vitamin D is very safe. And, a lot of people in the functional medicine world, the naturopathic physicians, the chiropractors out there, they've been saying vitamin D, vitamin D, vitamin D for years. And modern medicine is now just catching up to it and starting to think, wow, maybe vitamin D is something that we should be considering. So the baseline that we would say everybody should be on is, a good fish oil, good probiotic, and, a decent dose of vitamin D.
The vitamin D that I take is a capsule, so it's an oil.
Okay.
What kind of vitamin D do you recommend?
The vitamin D that's in the oil it's pretty smart that they're putting it in an oil because vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, right? So if you're taking it and swallowing it, you want to make sure you're taking it with a high, your fattiest meal of the day, which is usually dinner. That helps the absorption of it. A lot of people like to take the super high dose of vitamin D, the 50,000 IUs once a week. And that is fine. However, it's a large dose. It is fat soluble, so it's a little bit harder to absorb than water soluble vitamins like vitamin B. So I don't usually recommend just doing it once a week. I like doing it, orally, once daily, like you're doing it. However, I find that the very best way to absorb vitamin D is actually sublingually, under the tongue, because the way the molecule is fat soluble and stuff like that, you absorb it really well through your gums. So a lot of our patients will do between like 4,000 and 6,000 IUs every day underneath their tongue, and they'll do it like in the morning when they get up. Now, the only thing is whenever you put it under your tongue, you want to let it kind of linger there for about 20 minutes before you eat or drink because you're still going to be absorbing it even after the medication has been like swallowed or it's gone. But doing it orally every day is a fine option as well. But I think the ideal way is underneath the tongue.
Wonderful. And I would imagine anybody out there who has any questions could contact you directly and discuss this with you.
Oh, absolutely. They can contact us through our website, which is pharmacarerx.com, or they could just call us here at our lab. We do have, a fairly large amount of patients, so I think, we have helped a lot of people in the past.
Mm-hmm. And one last question. Do you ship out of state or just in Ohio?
As far as, if you're getting a prescription product, we are licensed in Ohio, Florida, and Pennsylvania. But if you just needed supplements or anything like that that's not a prescription, we can ship wherever. But as far as a prescription product goes, we actually have to have a pharmacy license in that state. So those are only Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Florida. But like I said, supplements and things like that, we can ship wherever the patients would be.
Well, thank you very much for having been our guest today. It's been a really educational experience. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it tremendously, and the more we can do to spread the word about LDN, the better.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This show is sponsored by Pharmacare Compounding Pharmacy. They are located outside of Akron, Ohio, and specialize in bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, LDN, erectile dysfunction, and much more. For further information, go to www.pharmacarerx.com or call 330-633-0714. Any questions or comments you may have, please email me, Linda, Linda, at ldnrt.org. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciated your company. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.